today. So Elan Lee is our chief design person for the Xbox Entertainment team. And so Elan, you probably saw him on some of the launch videos that we had. He won a Primetime Emmy in 2012 for some of his gaming that he's done. He started up some gaming companies, and he's just a visionary when it comes to talking about games and how game systems work and what they will be in the future. So it's my honor to welcome up Elan Lee to talk to you guys for a few minutes.
Hi guys. So I thought I was really honored to get the chance to chat with you guys about in my field. This is all sort of a new venture for Microsoft. We're really engaging in this new creative storytelling space, what it means to have immersive experiences in the living room, what it means to expand the capabilities of the Xbox and what it can do. And people like me who are professional storytellers and just live this stuff are so honored and to build teams that feel so privileged and lucky to start tinkering with what it means to tell stories in the 21st century. Is there water in? Right behind the chair. What I thought I would do today is maybe just give a little brief history about how I ended up where I am, some of the projects that are most inspiring to me, and then where we're going to go in the future. Thanks so much. All right, so one of the very first projects I ever worked on and where this path really started for me was Steven Spielberg's movie AI. Anybody see AI? Right? Yeah, okay, a few. How many people after watching AI thought, I just can't wait to play the video game? Right, a story about a little kid who's a robot and wishes he were real and wants more than anything his mother's affection, and at the end, everybody dies. And when I was at Microsoft 15 years ago as a lead game designer on the original Xbox, we were presented with this project, and the goal was, we've got this movie, we've got the rights to it, let's go build an Xbox game. And the problem was nobody left that movie thinking, I want to play the Xbox game. And so we needed something a little bit more creative. And what we did was we decided to take our first big step into interactive storytelling. What it might mean to, instead of playing the game version, what it might mean to live in this world a little bit. So what we did, we took the movie poster, and on the bottom of the movie poster is the billing block, directed by Steven Spielberg, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, etc. And we inserted a few extra things in there. Stuff that no one had ever seen before. Stuff like sentient machine therapist. And enough people also looked at the word summer 2001 and noticed those little black dashes in it and started translating them out and found a phone number that you could actually dial. And enough people kind of looked at that weird thing and called this phone number and heard a weird message and did a Google search for Janine Sala and started thinking, what is going on here? Because this woman put up a web page for this project that she worked on. And she said, listen, I worked on this movie. I was in charge of wrangling the robots in this movie, the sentient machines. And by the way, a friend of mine died under very mysterious circumstances. And if you know anything about it, please call me and help. And you could actually call her phone number, and she would actually answer. And she would invite you to the funeral, which you could actually go to. And there was someone who would hand out a business card, which led to another website, which led to a fax machine. And round this whole crazy thing went, leading you to literally hundreds of websites and other phone numbers and fax machines and live events. And before we knew it, we had millions of people participating in this interactive story that spread out all across the internet, put players in the same world as the movie, and let them have an effect on it, let them kind of tinker with it in a way that they had never experienced before. A lot of people called it the world's first alternate reality game, if you've ever heard the term before. This is at Microsoft, is actually where this all started, as we started with a problem, which was no one's going to play the Xbox game. So how do we think a little bit more creatively about this, and how do we let people into the story? After that, we started taking that a few steps farther. 9 Inch Nails, any fans, 9 Inch Nails out there? All right. More than I think saw AI, actually. What happened here was Trent Reznor, the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails, came to us and basically said, listen, I've got this new album, and this album is awesome, and it kind of tells a story. It tells a story of this dystopian future where the government has more power than they've ever had before, and where religion has a huge effect on government, and people are losing a lot of their civil liberties and a lot of their rights, and it feels like the soundtrack to a movie. The problem is I only have the soundtrack, I don't have the movie. Can you make the movie for me? And we thought, well, we don't actually want to make a movie. What we want to do is build sort of an experimental interactive story. And so here what we did was we built this story out in pieces that were spread out across the entire album. Every element of this album turned out to be a bit of story that you could take a step into. On the back of any CD, there's a little FCC warning that says, you know, basically don't pirate this CD. But ours was a little different, had a very different kind of message. Be a patriot, be an informer. You could actually call that number and you'd hear a little message from the fiction of this story, of this experience. That was a little taste. We did weirder things like, I know you guys have seen what it looks like on a computer when you see a visual of a sound, right? It's just sort of a crazy wavy line, there's not much to it. On ours, pictures and phone numbers started emerging if you would look at the imagery of the audio files on a computer through a spectroscope. So that got even weirder. One of my favorite tricks about this is the CD. That black CD on the left is the CD that you buy in the album, right? You buy the CD, you open it up, it's a black album, it says year 0 on the bottom, not much else. You put it into your CD player, you listen to the album. When you eject the disc, a different CD comes out of your CD player. The one that comes out is that white one on the right with secret bits hidden all over it and codes and websites and things that you can visit. It was done using a thermal ink. The heat from your CD player would eat away at the ink and reveal the secrets below. It would reburn eventually and you could do it over and over and over again. But we started tinkering with what it means to let people feel like a story is creeping into their world, into their real life, and what it means to tell the next generation of stories. One other example that I love to give is Kathy's book. A group of friends of mine decided that we wanted to figure out what the next generation of publishing might look like, because there's a great place to tell stories. So what we did was we wrote a book. And this is a journal of an 18-year-old girl. Crazy, insane things happened to her, but the whole thing was done in the form of a journal. And what was really exciting about this is as you're reading the book, things start to happen to you. So Kathy tells you a story about, I met this guy and we started dating and he's become such a jerk and I never want to see this guy again. I'm going to go home and take his phone number and rip it up into a million pieces. And you turn the page of the book and the actual ripped up phone number falls out of the book, which you can reassemble and call and listen to. Everything she ever references anywhere in the book, you can visit. There are websites, there are phone numbers, there are, again, email addresses. There's a whole world kind of waiting for you. And one of the best things about this, the thing that I love to point at as proof that this is starting to work and starting to find an audience that not only wants to engage in a different way, but will engage back with the property in a different way, is when we made a Facebook page for her. She's an 18-year-old girl. Who's going to believe that this thing is possibly real unless she has a Facebook page? So we put up a Facebook page for her, and when you create a Facebook page, you have to assign a birthday, because they need to know how old you are. So we made up a birthday for her. We created a Facebook page. She posts to it regularly, but something crazy happened. On her birthday, someone wrote her a note. Someone posted on her wall, "Happy birthday." And we all kind of scratched our heads thinking, well, that's kind of cool because she's a fictional character. They're not actually born. They don't have birth dates. But someone thought, Kathy lives in the same world as I do. So I'm going to wish her happy birthday because today's her birthday. And a few seconds later, she got another one. And I'm sure you can imagine where this is going. By the end of the day, it was out of control. Posts all over the place of people sending birthday greetings to a fictional character. Fictional character, right? Nobody, the story I love to tell is, nobody writes to Luke Skywalker and says, "Hey dude, sorry about your hand," right? Like, he lives in a different world than you do. There's this wall that you never penetrate. But when you start to play around with a different kind of storytelling, interactive storytelling, real world storytelling, suddenly the audience feels engaged to participate and to interact and to relate to characters in ways that they never have before. Final example, here we go. EDOC decided, okay, what else can we try? Where else can we tell really interesting stories? And immediately my answer was, let's try a clothing line. So we started a clothing line, and really cool looking shirts, sort of streetwear, punk kind of skater mentality, stuff that we'd all be really happy to wear out in public. But here's the trick. Every shirt in the line had a secret code or hidden message embedded somewhere in the shirt. You had to fold the shirt a certain way or get it hot or cold. We used thermal inks, invisible inks, infrared inks, glow-in-the-dark inks, all kinds of stuff, so that if you could figure out the code on a shirt, you would go to the website, enter the code you found, and a movie would start playing. A little 2-minute clip. We made a ton of movies. We made one for every single shirt in the line. The movies would all fit together like a puzzle piece, kind of like a TV show, and slowly you'd uncover the story about a girl on the run from the law for a crime she didn't commit, and only you can save her. Before you know it, you're knee-deep in a murder mystery told exclusively through these shirts. And if you want to know what happens next, great, go buy the next shirt. So on this thing went. And one of the things that I truly, truly love about this is this had an underlying message that I'm so intensely proud of. I actually started this clothing company because the second election of George W. Bush, a bunch of my friends got really upset. And they said he shouldn't have won, the vote was fixed, it was rigged, nobody voted, it was a big mess. And I would ask everyone that would complain about this, well, who did you vote for? And the answer was almost always the same, which was, I didn't vote, it's not worth it. And I got so frustrated, regardless of your political beliefs. The fact that you're complaining about something and then not taking action was just infuriating to me. So I started a clothing line, because that made a lot of sense at the time. But the way that the clothing line worked was that every character in our story had a historical counterpart. And we never said it out loud. We never flat out said, this is a metaphor for history, but it actually was. It was a metaphor for the founding fathers. Every character, here are the characters in our story, they all were members of a band, had a historic counterpart. So Jeff, who was on lead guitar, was actually Thomas Jefferson. Lifted a whole bunch of quotes from him. He was the lead singer, the voice, the mouthpiece. Down the line we can go. But there was a murder that took place, which was actually Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. And before everyone knew it, they were actually learning about the founding of our country. And they were learning a bit of history. And they were learning about a group of people who, just like them, were really pissed off and couldn't figure out how to find their voice and took really drastic action. And I'm very happy to say that tons of players who played this game and bought these shirts and participated in this interactive story went out and started forming Rock the Vote parties and canvassing and going door to door and posting in their blogs. And when the next election came along, my demographic was the most well represented that it ever has been in history, and I like to take 100% full credit for that. We can, how are we doing on time? Okay, we'll fly through. So I thought that was the last slide. I was kidding. We've got actually just 2 more really quick examples I'd love to show you. What happens next? And what happens next is a lot of the examples that I've been showing you are really great examples of interactive storytelling, but they are by definition tailored for a small audience. It is rare that people are going to go out and try a thermal ink trick with a CD. It is rare that people are going to go and figure out the thermal embedded ink code in their t-shirt. A lot of people do it, but it's certainly not a mass audience. And then the question becomes, well, how do you reach a much larger audience? And for me, the answer was television. Television, movies, really straightforward cinema, but done in such a way that you could dive a little deeper. We did this really wonderful campaign for the Watchmen movie when it came out. There was just a simple website. And Rorschach, the main character Rorschach, who has these ink blot patterns on his mask, if you were to go to this website, we would have this running ink blot test. And suddenly, through a little bit of hacker magic, your phone would start ringing. And if you picked up your phone, you would hear Rorschach, the actual character, talking to you, asking you, what do you see? And anything you said at any moment, that ink blot would start to morph into that shape, and he would talk to you about that. And he would start to show you how you're pretty warped and pretty demented, and perhaps a life of criminal activity is best suited for you. But this was huge. Like, we had more people doing this than almost any project we'd ever worked on because it was so simple, right? It was interactive, but all you had to do was sit at your computer, click on a link, and stuff would start happening. So then we expanded that even farther and started building all kinds of TV shows. Every one of these shows, if you saw a character pick up a phone to make a phone call, the next moment the cell phone in your pocket would start ringing because characters are calling you from your television. They're sending you emails, they're sending you text message. They're doing all kinds of things to make these stories a little bit more immersive. Open that door just a little bit wider to try to experiment with us in what it means to tell interactive stories. And this, of course, brings us, oh, that one won an Emmy, which was kind of fun. This, of course, brings us to the Xbox. I've come back to Microsoft. I've been there now 6 months, specifically because of how damn exciting this is. This is a hardware platform, it's a software platform, it's a network. It's all of these things that millions of people have already installed in their homes, have already connected through high-definition connections to their television, have already connected to the internet through broadband. It is a storyteller's dream. And what we'll talk about in the panel as we sit here is some of the ways that this incredible platform can tell stories, how it can make it really easy to tell interactive, immersive stories in ways that we've never seen before. And because we're in a Microsoft building and because I'm sure somebody is watching this, you can get all of that for $4.99. So that's it. That's just sort of a quick history of some of the stuff that I've worked on and has brought me up to standing in front of you guys today and this passion that I have for telling the next generation of stories. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me here tonight. I think this is going to be a great discussion.
This will be fun.
I'm Brian Mullins. I'm the founder and CEO of Daqri. At Daqri, we make 4D creative technologies. How many people are familiar with augmented reality? And hopefully everybody got to see some of the demos that we had here from Daqri. We're really excited about the way that augmented reality technologies, specifically computer vision and helping a device understand where it's at and what you're looking at, can change the way that we interact with information, really change our fundamental relationship with information. We think that that'll have a big impact on everything from entertainment to the way that we do things on the factory floor. Oh yeah, sorry. Am I on? So that's what why we've created tools that artists can use themselves. You don't have to be a programmer to tell a story in this medium. Before that, you needed a team of mobile developers in order to create an augmented reality experience. And so that's Daqri in a nutshell.
For me personally, and I know for you dealing with a lot of this technology and especially its application for entertainment, the issue becomes you don't want to fix something that isn't broken. As an entrepreneur and one who listens to a lot of entrepreneurial pitches for new startups, I hear this all the time. I hear people who are starting down paths trying to solve problems that don't actually exist, or trying to fix things that actually aren't broken. And it's always a path for disaster. And so here I am, personally, in charge of the interactive department of a TV studio, and whose charter is, phrased really poorly, fix television. And that's terrifying because television is not broken. I love TV. It's amazing, and it's certainly not broken. And so in order to sidestep that problem and not be right in the middle of this mess of this path to failure, I think it's necessary to kind of rephrase what we're trying to do and where a lot of really amazing innovation comes from, which is not necessarily fixing something that's broken or solving a problem, but exploring what it means to enhance an existing medium, an existing form of storytelling. A lot of the projects that I've just shown certainly weren't trying to fix a problem. They were trying to say, I think it could be a little better. I think there's something we're missing. And we're going to fail more often than we're going to succeed, but it is that playful nature of it and that experimental nature of it, which is where the innovation, the creativity, and the enormous success does come from. So I kind of object to the question, like, what problem are you trying to solve? Only because I don't think that's necessarily the right place to start. I think it's more what opportunities exist and how do you take full advantage of them given the resources available. What do you think?
I think it's a great question to start because you can poke holes in it easily.
Yeah.
But at Daqri, and me personally, what I've always thought of what we're doing is really an evolution of the medium of manifesting ideas. If you kind of take it to the extreme, the chisel and the television are about manifesting ideas. The television is just a lot better at it. Lower latency, much faster refresh rate. And I think that by working with the latest technologies, whether it's new types of screens, new augmented reality software that understands what it sees, or depth cameras as part of a home entertainment center, it offers some really new and exciting ways to accelerate the communication, to take into consideration all of these things that we couldn't before, to really personalize these experiences. I think that everybody knows the Kinect, and they think about interacting with the Kinect because it can see where you are. And I think the next evolution of a device like that, as part of the Xbox One, is the Xbox One knowing a little bit more about the room you're in too, and having the experience change and scale based upon how big that room is and how far you are away to really complete the story.
So as I see you, I saw the demo out there, and you're playing with like some crazy science fiction stuff. Like, it's amazing. What does long-term success look like to you?
At Daqri, our mission, the mission of the company is really about giving a whole new dimension to ideas and really allowing people to express them in new ways more completely as a function of knowledge transfer as well as entertainment. We're doing a lot of interesting things on the industrial side. We have three areas that we operate in a lot. We're known for marketing and the use of our technology in marketing and entertainment, and to a lesser extent in education. But really our fastest growing vertical is in industrial, and by putting this information in the context of a workspace. Oh yeah, can we turn these up or?
It's almost as if they're not on. The audio is actually not from the house system. It's from cameras.
Oh, sorry. Oh, in that case, I will just.
Sound issue is what we're saying.
Okay.
And so we're going to add, if you guys could project
Absolutely.
a little bit
Absolutely.
more. So these get you to the camera, but they don't get you to the audience.
Got it. All right.
Okay.
So in that case, I'll talk a little bit louder. I was talking about the areas that we're known for in marketing and education, but industrial is our fastest growing vertical. And to really have the ability to change what people see in those environments when you're working every day is exciting for me, and I think as a part of this discussion because of the opportunity to add the gaming and the game mechanics to our everyday life. So I think that it's really exciting on the way it's going to change the way we play and the way we work.
Okay, but I need a better answer than that. What does success look like? Like, give me the vision of like pick one of the three verticals and tell me what the future looks like. Mostly, I'm trying to pick your brain for ideas here.
Okay. We think that as devices are changing, people maybe today with a tablet or a mobile phone, tomorrow with a head-mounted display, you can have these experiences first person with nothing in your hands. And you can have them anywhere, and that becomes really interesting with knowledge transfer. So to us, success is when anyone can put on, one of these new generation of devices, look through them using, hopefully Daqri technology, know what they're looking at, and learn anything about it in real time. It's just like I would give the example of The Matrix, where Trinity says, "I want to know how to fly this helicopter." Why not put on the glasses and see, grab this switch, turn it, pull the stick, and now I can actually learn because I had knowledge transfer. I didn't have to learn it. I saw it visually at a really fundamental level, connected that information to the brain in the context where I was at.
Yeah.
So I say success is when anyone can learn anything in the context of where they're at.
Okay, so now I have more. You've now opened a whole can here. So now I have so many questions. All right, and is it okay? Can we also just open it up for people anyone who has questions? By all means, jump in, because otherwise I'm just going to totally monopolize this thing. I don't want this to turn into sort of a debate on goggles and Google Glass and all that. But it is true that we watched Trinity in The Matrix, and she says, I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. And she's wearing the coolest looking glasses ever, and she's got the leather outfit, and it's just awesome, and everyone wants to be like that. Today, we were promised this vision of 21st century transportation, and what we ended up with was the Segway, and nobody wants to be caught dead on those things because you look like such a dork. We've got the same issue, I think, for this knowledge transfer, for the glasses and for the interfaces, and like, is that ever going to? When I say what does the future look like, how do you
That's
deal
a great
with
question, and I'll have two answers for that. One's the science fiction, and one's a little bit more pragmatic.
Yeah.
Where's the guy who's into neurogaming that I had a conversation with earlier? So there's he's doing some research in controlling games with your mind. At Daqri, we are too. We think that when you have a new medium, you have to look at new ways to interact with it. We think that gestures only go so far because people don't want to hold their arms like this all day long and make big movements. But if you could make a thought and then have that thought manifest, we think that's really exciting. And if you look at EEG, MRI technology, as it evolves, I think that the brain-computer interface will become a really practical way for us to get these thoughts in and out, which is the sci-fi answer and more down the road. I think the more pragmatic answer is,
How far down the road? Because I kind of want that today.
Yeah, right, that would be fantastic. There's been some amazing studies on MRIs where they put people in an MRI and had them dream, and then woke them up right after they had the dream and cataloged what they dreamed about. And they found that people store concepts like mom and dog and moon the same way. So that there's a fundamental data structure that we can tap into to see what you're thinking about as an interface for computers. The answer to that then is also, I think meaningful brain-computer interfaces are available today for very simple things where you can measure concentration level, you can measure stress level, and make sure that somebody who's doing a very critical process is paying attention, or maybe they're very stressed out and it's time for them to take a break, and you can really optimize their productivity that way. To this kind of universal bidirectional, I think we're talking 5 to 10 years out before it really gets practical. I think on the other question, as far as head-mounted displays, which I think is a good interim step, everything that we're seeing today, positioned towards consumers, is not an end state. It's very early on.
Sure.
And I think that there's also a fundamental mistake that people are making with their design constraints for it. Everybody's trying to make a pair of glasses that are smart, these smart glasses that you would wear all the time like you would wear glasses.
Yeah.
And I think it's limiting the features that you can put into it.
Yeah.
You're making it so light and so much out of the way that I don't really want to wear it all day, even though I could. I think that the paradigm for the head-mounted display for the 4D technologies for augmented reality is going to be more like opera glasses, where not like holding a stick, the actual form factor, but the philosophical.
Like opt-in.
I put them on when I need them, and then I put them away, and I make it very easy to get between the two states.
Yeah.
And I really think that's the kind of device that we're going to see catch on, much like the phone. I mean, it is the same thing from a pure information theory standpoint. I hold it in front of my face when I need it, and I put it away. We're already doing these moves that you need to have this type of interaction. We just don't realize it.
I have to tell you about one other tech that I saw that was just so science fiction-y that it's at least worth saying out loud. I was in Europe like 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to this research group that had a pair of contacts that they could light up like 2 or 3 pixels only, right? It's not actually a display yet, but they're working on it. And the question is like, how do you power something like that, right? Where do you put a battery? You don't want a wire hanging out of your eyeball, right? And so their solution was so mind-blowing and so creepy. They had a little roller ball, like little mini like turbine that would rest against your eyeball. And as you looked around, it would spin the ball and power the device. It was so crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it speaks to the kind of convergence of electronics and miniaturization of machines, almost even on the nanoscale. How we solve these problems, will baffle our minds today, 10 years from now.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how Xbox and Microsoft chooses what their next peripheral will be, because I know like for the Kinect, that like LiDAR array technology, that's super, I didn't see that anywhere else before it was adopted. And you're asking what the future is, but I sort of feel like you decide what the future is when you choose your peripheral. Because if you wanted EEG to be the next thing in gaming, and you say there's going to be EEG, there's going to be brain reading technology in the next Xbox, that's how you're going to get prices down.
Yeah.
That's how there's going to be huge improvement in the technology.
That's a really good point. Could you all hear him? Okay, yeah?
Hear him better than you.
Yeah, right. Sorry. I'm gonna actually stand up because I can project a little bit better if I do that. So to the I've only been at Microsoft this time 6 months, so bear with me if I get this statistic wrong, but I believe it is true that the Microsoft Research Department is the most well-funded department in all of Microsoft. They make zero money, right? They're not intended, but the most well-funded. And so the question about where does the next peripheral come from, where does the next technology come from, almost entirely it comes from there. It is a massive organization with the biggest brained people you will ever meet in your life. It's mind-blowing and so awesome. And it's a shotgun approach. They try everything. They try so many different things, and the expectation is to fail, and the expectation is to fail as quickly as possible so you can get on to the next amazing thing. Kinect, in general, came from an outside company, but it was still coupled with a whole lot of internal research projects that they were doing, which is why they were exploring that space, which is why they were able to so easily integrate it. And there's a lot of things that I can't talk about right now, unfortunately, but it comes from that same shotgun approach, right? They're trying so many different things, and it is true that the next big push will be what these giant companies decide it should be because they can back it and because they can provide an experience that's going to be mind-blowing. But at the same time, it's also from those external influences. It's from companies who have found magic, who can do a wizard magic trick right out there on the table, right, that you've never been able to see before, and to pull those in and to integrate them and to build something incredible.
I think it's also important to mention, and I agree, actually. I just in my brief encounters with Microsoft Research, they're really awesome. So I'll back that up. But another kind of way to look at the question is that adoption can drive economies of scale because more people buy them and they're less expensive to make. But economies of scale almost never drive adoption by themselves. So just because they would include a peripheral doesn't necessarily mean that people would buy it. And so I think that it still has to be really calculated what device is next. Not just because it was included it would be popular. Sometimes it does. Certainly if you've got a console out there that millions of people are getting and you add a feature to it, people will expect there's an opportunity, but it won't necessarily guarantee it. I think that the value of the EEGs and some of the new features that are being created will actually drive the adoption on their own, and then you'll start to see them in the consoles probably over the next couple of years. I don't know anyone who's familiar with the brain-computer interface tech. There's been more advancement in the last 5 years than in the last 70 years because people are now tinkering them in their garages as well as corporations are playing with them.
The other thing that I think is also just fascinating about that is the application of the technology to storytelling that emerges after the fact. So we all got to play with the new Xbox One Kinect camera earlier than the general public, of course, but we started finding things that we could do with it that the research department and the inventors had never envisioned. So the infrared camera can monitor the blood flow through your cheeks, right? And it can figure out your pulse. Okay, so they figured out they could do that, but then they just sort of handed it out like, okay, we don't quite know what to do with this thing, but isn't it cool? And so we started plugging it in to the score for TV shows. What if the tempo of the score would always match your pulse? The more excited you get, the faster the show gets, and the opposite as well. Not saying it's the world's greatest idea, but it started to get really interesting, and suddenly we found that, hey, I actually care about this story a whole lot more than I used to because it seems to be tailored to me. We did other things where, okay, so gesture support, really fine-tuned gesture support. The original Kinect could not detect hand placement on a very small scale, but now we can, and now we know finger support as well. So you're watching a horror movie and you cover your eyes, we can suddenly boost the volume up, or cover your ears and suddenly the ghost starts saying, don't be afraid, I'm right here. There's all kinds of really cool storytelling techniques that emerge after the fact, just because you get to play with this cool tech and with a creative vision to tell better stories.
I'm curious, is Kinect going to open up for OS X also?
I don't know. I really don't. I wish I knew. I don't know. Yeah.
So I actually have two questions both on the exact same topic. First, how do you see interactive storytelling being used in education?
Well, education's one of yours. Do you want to start?
Sure.
That was actually my second question was how do you think that your technology is used in education?
You know, I think that what's interesting is there's two dynamics at play. One, making the idea of the classroom more flexible so that you can have the rich experiences that you might, historically have only had in a lab. Say you're doing anatomy, and you'd have to go to a lab environment to do it. The ability to move them out of those places and make them more accessible is always going to make the content more valuable. I think that's why mobile's exploded. It's just made content so much more accessible. So that's one of the fundamentals. I think the other is the ability to do knowledge transfer with new technologies. With 4D, we've actually been able to demonstrate that you can learn faster and retain more. And it has to do with representing the content fully. It seems very simple, but you can look at it from one side, and if your brain needs to fill in the gap, you'll actually find yourself, looking around and changing your perspective, and it'll fill in the blanks of the model that's in your mind, and you can get better comprehension out of it. I think there's another effect that by engaging the part of your brain that's responsible for spatial awareness as you move around, and of course, as you get more of the brain involved, you get that higher retention, you get that better connection with the information. So I think that the technology itself has this kind of fundamental ability to make education better and really mature the way that we do knowledge transfer. But it still comes back to telling stories, as you're learning, and giving people what they're interested in when they're interested in it. Another interesting statistic around I think we have the anatomy app as one of our demos. We're really proud of that one. It was originally an experiment, and then we put it on the app stores to make it available and easier to distribute, and people found it and started adopting it. And before we knew it, we had 500,000 downloads that were organic. And we've never advertised it. It was literally a project with an academic institution. And but what we found was the average time spent in the app was 8 minutes. And if you were to show somebody a video on a mobile phone, that was 8 minutes long, you'd lose them in about 8 seconds because they don't know where the payoff is, if there's even anything there that they'd be interested in. But with these new technologies, like 4D, you can go directly to what you're interested in when you're interested in, and then you can explore from there and hang out and learn even more. And I think that's one of the key aspects of interactivity. Go to what you gravitate towards. Engage with it and then explore, and you really unlock human potential through allowing them to explore and consume more of the content on their schedule, on their terms.
I also want to just answer that from the game perspective. So I'll tell you a quick little story. I don't have any experience trying experiments in a classroom, but I do have a lot of experience in museums. Museums tend to approach me all the time with, hey, we've got this great new exhibit and we want people to learn more and engage more. And some of the first things we did was we built little mobile apps. So you go around the museum and you have to read something or you watch a video, it recognizes where you are, recognizes a QR code, and it starts playing content for you because we want you to learn. And that's called positive reinforcement, to use the psychological term, right? Imagine you've got a rat in a cage, and every time he pushes the button, you give him a treat. Positive reinforcement. He keeps pushing the button until he doesn't want to eat anymore. We found that's typical gamification, right? You give people rewards for the things that they find really easy to do. It works well, but not great. The other psychological phenomenon that you can use is negative reinforcement, right? Rat in a cage, every time he doesn't push the button, you give him an electric shock. It makes for a really obedient rat that is also very paranoid, schizophrenic, and eventually dies. So you don't want to implement that in the museum. The third one that I've started using a lot because it's so awesome and so effective is called random schedule reinforcement. And I think it's actually the most effective learning tool imaginable. Same exact thing, right? You've got your phone, you're walking around the museum, and this time, whenever it recognizes something, on a random schedule, we're going to give you a reward. We're always going to give you the video or the bit of text, but we're going to give you points every once in a while on a random schedule. This makes for addiction. This is what all of Las Vegas is based on. And so what you get is really, really obedient rats. I can't believe I'm still saying rats. People walking through a museum who are now just, they've got this insatiable appetite for, I want to look at every exhibit. I want to read every single thing. I want to watch every single video. I want to absorb it because randomly I might win this lottery and I might get more. Yeah?
And I absolutely understand that. I'm very, very passionate about using games and, by extension, gamification in education. But some people may look at that as kind of, what do you say, kind of trying to control someone to do something. I'm actually a little bit surprised that no one's actually come to you and tried to do, like, for example, what you did with 9 Inch Nails within the museum. I'm actually very surprised by that.
We get that a lot, actually. And in early attempts, the problem that I run into over and over again is just getting people to engage when they have come to the museum for a different purpose is really hard. I pull these psychological tricks specifically because I'm literally hijacking their experience. And I need to make that seem very rewarding to them and not like an imposition. There's a lot of degrees of gray in there. And I don't want to make this sound simple or that manipulation is the right way to go. It's just tinkering with.
I absolutely understand. Like, I think that there should be some form of gamification, for example, in the classroom, just to give them a nice little nudge to really foster a real love of learning.
Absolutely.
Once you have that love of learning,
It feeds on itself. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah?
I could give an example of that, having worked with teachers in Israel. One of them, 7th grade teacher, there was a story that the children didn't like so much. They didn't want to get to read the book or to write a book report. And what she did, she opened the Facebook characters and put it on the computer, and the children tried to find out every time what's going to happen with that character and trying to interact with the character and change the direction of the story. And then there was always the question, what would happen if? And she could stop it at various stages and discuss it with the children. They became much more motivated.
Yeah, engagement with the character. They again, to my earlier point, they live in the same world as that character, and so you want to engage. I love that. It's a great example. Any other questions?
I have a question, actually. Yeah. So just devil's advocate, do people get adrenal fatigue or some version of it and then not learn when they're not getting points?
Oh, adrenal fatigue is
as a metaphor. Of course.
As a metaphor, right. So the difference, the reason that it's not an accurate metaphor is the rat is stuck in the cage, cannot leave, has no choice, is participating in the activity. Typically, gamers are not stuck in the experience. They can typically. Don't go and Google that one. But for the most part, they sort of self-police, right? They walk away when they need to. They recuperate when they need to. When they know they're not getting something out of a game that they're used to getting, they usually identify that as fatigue or exhaustion and take a step back, usually. Yeah.
Two-part question. First, what age, generally speaking, do you find is your target market? And those people by that I also mean understand what you're doing and don't need a lot of tutorial. And what are you doing as companies so that people in my age group feel more comfortable using some of the technology, because eventually people in the younger group are going to be in my group and the technology will be exponentially more, I think.
Yeah. To start to answer that, a line that my team is so sick of hearing, because I say it at every single meeting, is if you need an instruction manual to watch television, we have failed. Because it's so easy to go there. It's so easy to go there. We fall in love with an idea, we fall in love with an interactive model, we fall in love with a storytelling mechanism, but it's too complicated and only we understand how to use it. We have completely failed. But the easy answer to your question is for Xbox Entertainment Studios, males 18 to 34, are the sweet spot for us. Those are the ones who have already purchased the Xbox. They're looking to it for entertainment. They're looking to tell their friends about it. They want to brag about it. There's 40 million of them out there that have already purchased the thing. Those are who we're starting with.
Yeah, I think that our demographic is a lot more broad because our technology is used everywhere from industrial to education and entertainment. We've had some really exciting projects that we did, like with Lego and the Lego Kinect, where you can get the Lego catalog and you point your smartphone at it, and the model actually assembles itself out of the bricks in 4D, like the demos you saw here. We learn a lot about the way younger people do interact with it. We learn the way that older people interact with it and people in the middle, and we're constantly trying to simplify and make it accessible to everyone. From the very beginning, I think I started with my kids as the guinea pigs, and my oldest son was about 2.5 at the time. And if he can't, now he's 6, but the middle one's 2.5, and if he can't get it, we're doing it wrong. So we really just try and use experience and working with different groups and trying to make them and the technology and the medium as accessible as possible. But it's a really tough challenge. If you have any thoughts, I'd love it.
My question was, people in my demographic, I think many of them are intimidated by technology. What are you doing to change that intimidation factor? Can it be done?
Cookies? It's an awesome question that I just don't have an answer for, except for trying to simplify the products, trying to simplify the interface, and working with people from all different groups and trying to get their feedback.
Can you guys talk a little bit about, there's a bunch of different business models going on. There's a bunch of different proliferation of devices. And Xbox obviously is making choices around Microsoft platform for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But you get an opportunity to look at a device ecosystem that's really different, right? Whether it's Google Glass or it's the latest tablet or Gingerbread or KitKat or anything on the Google platform or anything on the iOS platform. And how do you manage the proliferation and the complexity for that? I mean, that's a big thing that we're seeing as a trend that the industry is going to face in the gaming sector over the next 5 years, is managing the proliferation of the distribution points, and how do they manage and make those choices? And so, I work in this space as a consultant.
I have a 140,000 person company to manage that. How do you do it?
Yeah, relentless focus on quality and testing through every step of it. We start by selecting the devices and the form factors that are most meaningful to our customers for their experiences, and then we just test every step of the way. Because you're right, the ecosystems. Some of them are really, some parts of them are really cohesive and fantastic to work on, and others are disjointed and very difficult. And without a really, organizational focus on quality and testing and a culture of it, and creating a world-class quality group, even in a smaller company. You can't manage the ecosystem because your app will run on one device and another, and if the customers can't reliably expect to get the experience, you're just not going to keep them, and you're not going to be successful in the space.
That's a great answer. Anybody else?
I got a question. Brian, why haven't you tweeted since 2011?
You know what? I have. I'm Mr. Laserbeam.
Yes, 2011.
No, that's not, I'm pretty sure I've tweeted since then. But yeah, if somebody could pull that up, I'm not the biggest on social media, but I'm pretty sure I've tweeted in at least 2013. If somebody could get my back here and help me out. I think I was really happy to be home at the Virgin terminal last year. So, but yeah, I'm not so good on the Twitters, but I am an avid stalker on social media. So, I mean, I participate by watching.
One question.
Yeah.
Why are most of these experiences starting in marketing?
Oh, why are most of these experiences starting in marketing? There's this great quote. All new technology is created for marketing military, or pornography, other uses are eventually found. That's where the money is. I mean, those are the guys, especially with a lot of the projects that I showed you, that was through a series of startups that I started. And you go where the money is. Those are the guys who are willing to take a lot of risks, who can build something and dispose of it if it's no good, and who can work on a contract basis. Haven't built anything for the military or pornography, but marketing has been really good to me.
Any other questions?
Okay, I don't even know what my question is, but just throwing it out there, it might be a sensitive topic, but just in general, with all these new technologies coming out and this highly interactive platform, do you guys come in, I mean, are you ever stopped for a moment to worry about maybe people's privacy, or how you're interacting so deeply with somebody's reaction? Are there boundaries, I guess, or are there things that you're doing, like security measures, to ensure that there is a level of safety? Like, for instance, I put a little Post-it over my laptop camera just because someone can hack it and maybe be looking at me while I'm, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just thoughts,
Privacy is something that is very, very important to me. I have also gone the route of putting things in front of my webcam and all that. From a hardware and software point of view, that's mostly out of my realm. Like, I trust the people I work with. I choose which companies I choose to trust. I know that it is of paramount importance to Microsoft that they maintain those kinds of relationships with their audience, and that they never do anything to violate that. My realm, though, is from the storytelling point of view, which is honestly equally important when it comes to that. We've had experiences where we call people in the middle of the night, and we've had users call the police on us. We've had to manage expectations and make you understand that you're always safe. I'll tell you one really fun story, if you'll indulge me for a second. For the 9 Inch Nails project, we had this wonderful scenario where we had a bunch of players show up on a street corner, and they solved a puzzle. They figured out they had to show up on the street corner. A van pulls up, drops a bag of cell phones on the sidewalk, takes off. All these players grab a cell phone. There's a little instruction set that says, keep me on, keep me charged, you'll know what to do, right? And so that's it, right? So they all go home, and they've got these weird cell phones, and a few days later it starts ringing, and it tells them to show up at this parking lot. And they all show up at this parking lot. At the parking lot, we've got this huge bus with blacked out windows. We load them all onto the bus. We drive them around in circles for a while. They can't see where they are. We take them to an abandoned warehouse. They go into the warehouse, a curtain falls down, and there's Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails to play a private concert for them. It was this really amazing moment. Now, how do you end something like that? And you'll see where the privacy comes in a second. You can't just take a bow and say, game over, right? Because we've told them they live in this world. It's a dystopian future. The government has too much. You need to end with a bang. You need to do something big. So what we did was 10 or 12 songs in, the side wall exploded. And a SWAT team poured inside, firing automatic weapons and throwing concussion grenades. Everyone flipped out and ran for the door, which is where the bus was, and filed onto the bus. Really great. Except for 3 guys who just stood there like this. And a SWAT guy is running up to him, firing a gun, and they're just sitting there like this because they're on the other end of that safety thing. They know they're so safe, their privacy is so respected that nothing bad could possibly happen to them, which is a huge problem for me as a storyteller because I need them to be in the moment, and they're just not. So what happens is the SWAT team guy runs up, grabs one of them, punches him in the face, blood splatters all over the wall, throws him down on the floor, starts kicking the crap out of him. The other 2 guys turn ghost white, jaws hit the floor, they turn and they run for the bus, which is exactly what I wanted them to do. It was a stuntman that we planted way in advance to facilitate exactly that. I actually have kind of lost track about why I'm telling you the story, other than it's really cool. Yeah.
Is that how you talked to them tonight, too?
What's the economic model for that, though? Because you guys must have spent a fortune on like 30 people, right? With cell phones.
Oh.
And
Yes.
Concerts and like, where's the money coming from?
So those people are not random people off the street. These are the hardest core players who are the most vocal. We generated more YouTube hits for the videos that they posted, more retweets of the tweets. Their Facebook pages skyrocketed. Every one of those people drew in hundreds of thousands of more. It was a giant word of mouth campaign. We didn't let anybody in that door. These were very, very carefully selected people. They felt random, right? They ended up on the street corner. But they only ended up on the street corner because they got that email telling them to show up on the street corner, and we sent those emails, and it was very, very specific. So yeah, it's a lot of puppet mastering, right, goes on behind the scenes to pull those things off. We're about done? Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Does everybody want to thank Elan and Brian? At least the 2/3 of people who could hear everything that was going on. But thank you guys all for coming and sharing with us a little bit of your experience. Again, I want to thank Microsoft for giving us this wonderful space. I want to thank Delta and Ernst & Young and all of our other sponsors.